Shalom. Welcome back. We are continuing to work through, and we just have two more lessons, I think, depending on how it goes, of the entire book of Eichah, that's Hebrew Lamentations. So today we will be on chapter 4, and then Monday we will do chapter 5, and we'll be done. And then we'll have this resource out there. Anytime you want to go through this book, you can go through again, just listen to these teachings. Maybe when you're driving somewhere or something, if you want to go through the entire book, just like we have for Esther is out there, and we're currently filling out other books. Also, if you do the annual Torah portion, we have the first Aliyahs and oftentimes more for all of those. So that might be something you find enjoyable as well. So anyway, let's get to it. Avinu Malkeinu ken yiratzon, tishlachna et ruchacha alai ki ani achol ledaber keta rotzei balayla hazot. Okay. Hebrew Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 1. Eichah yu'am zahav yishne haketen hatov tishtapechena avnei kodesh berosh kol chutzot. And you'll notice we're back to the normal acrostic style. One verse is Aleph, one verse is Beit, next verse is Gimel, working through the Aleph Bet. So Eichah, how is it? How? Yu'am. Yu'am. This is from the verb amam, number 2. So ayin mem mem, number 2. So I say number 2 because I've mentioned to some of you before. So I'm not sure this is in all the modern lexicons or not. But amam number 1 means to be strong. To be strong. And this is where the word comes from, a people. I guess the idea is strength in numbers. They become strong. And sometimes in some of the older Hebrew literature, like some of the older Psalms, you'll see the word used in kind of a strange way when you try to translate it as people. But when you understand that it's coming from amam, then it's really going back to that older meaning of strength, and then it works out. In this case, this verb is not from the amam number 1, but it's from amam number 2, which is a different word. And this word here is in the Hophal. The word itself is not that common. It appears in the call only in Ezekiel. And it means something like, well, it depends on who you talk to. The scholar Zimmerly says it means to amaze, whereas Müller says it's to cause trouble. And then in another place, it can mean like to come up to a place or to equal to something, to surpass. The Hophal is only here. Only here. I don't know why I don't have that marked as a hotbox. Perhaps because it's, yeah, okay. Maybe, yeah. Because we have Amam in other places, but the other meaning. So, in the Hophal, it means to be darkened. To be darkened. And this kind of fits with some of its cognate language meanings. Like in Arabic, gama is to cover, right? So something's being covered, it's being darkened. Okay. So eichah yu'am, the Hophal, which is a passive causative, like to cause to be covered. So to be has been darkened, zahav, gold. Yishne. So there are some different perspectives on this one. This might be an alternate spelling for shana, shin, nun, hey, which is to change, right? Like we say that God does not change. In which case, yishna, it will change. Haketem, the gold. This is another word for gold. This is a very high quality gold. The gold from Ophir was called ketem. So we have many names for gold. We also have paz, right, which is a very refined gold. Hatov. Haketem hatov. The gold, the good one. So probably the eichah is doing double duty force. How the good gold has changed. Although there are some who read this as yisne instead, yisna, which would mean is hated. So good gold is hated, something like that. Tish tapechena. This is from shafach, which is to pour out, But it's a Hithpael form. It's a little bit confusing because you have the tish tapechna. So this is a third person feminine plural form. That's why you have the na at the end. So the Hithpael of shafach, to spill. So really, see, it would have been tit shafach. You see that? And when you have a tit, comes before a sheen or sin or samich, they do something that's called metathesis. They swap. That's why instead of tit shapechana, which would have made sense, it's tish tapechana. So it can be hard to find the root when that happens. So that's what's happening here. So the Hithpael of to pour is to be spilled all around, to lay about, to lay all around. So tish tapechana, what is spilled all around? What's laying all around? Avnei kodesh, holy stones, or stones of holiness. Berosh kol chutzot. Berosh, at the head of, and this is the construct form, so it's all together, kol, every, chutzot, street corner, satur. Now we have Beit, verse 2, Bnei Tzion, haikarim, mesulalim, bapaz. So here now we have another word for gold, right? So we had zahav, we had ketem, and now we have paz. Bnei Tzion, children of Zion. Interesting. Instead of the normal bat Zion, we have Bnei Tzion. The apparatus thinks it should be Avnei Tzion, right? Because we just had Evan, like stones of Zion. Haikarim, the precious ones. So the precious sons of Zion, children of Zion, I think it's nice as children. These are what the precious holy stones are. They're the people. So I don't think we need to modify the text at all. Hamesulaim. This is from the verb salah, samech, lamed, hey. This is a pual participle form of that. So it's functioning kind of like as an adjective. So pual being passive of to be paid. So the Bnei Tzion hakarim hamesulaim. The children of Zion, see it's definite because of Zion. The precious ones who are paid ba paz, with the fine gold. Eichah nechshavu lenivlei cheretz. Ma'aseh yedei yotzer. Eicha, how is it, or how was it, nechshavu, that they were reckoned? It was thought, see Nif all about, lenivlei cheres, to the navel. Navel is like a container or a jar, something made of clay. So to these jars of cheres, which is earthenware, which is clay. Ma'aseh, the handiwork, the work of yedei, the hands of yotzer, a potter. Literally a former, right? Yatzar is to form. But in context with cheres, we know it's a potter. Satu. Okay. Verse 3, let me move that up a bit. Might need to pick this up a bit if we're going to get through these tonight. Gam tanin chaletzu shad heiniku gurehen bat ami le'achzar. This is kind of weird. Look, it's got kai. So let's see what the kere reading is. So the kere is putting these two words together. See the Q there? Kai ainim. Kai ainim bamidbar. Gam tanin. Even. So the Masorah says we're to read this as tanim. So the scribes thought that tanin was an error and it should be tanim. So that would be jackals. Even jackals Chalitzu, they pull away or offer out. Shad, a breast. Heiniku, they nurse. Gurehen, their cubs. You might be familiar with the first prime minister of Israel. His name was, he called himself Ben Gurion, son of a lion cub, right? This is Gurehen, their Gurim, their cubs. Bat Ami, O daughter of my people. Le'achzar, for the cruelty or the fierce. Kai Ainim, like ostriches, Bamidbal, in the desert. Some manuscripts say daughters of my people. It's a little bit garbled saying for cruelty. Seems like it's saying, look, even these jackals, even animals, they will offer bread and then they will suckle, right? Their cubs. So it feels like it's saying, but the daughter of my people or daughters of my people are cruel. Not sure if maybe this is a lamed vocatum. It's like saying, "Oh, daughter of my people, oh, cruel one," perhaps like ostriches in the desert. Okay, I'm not sure why ostriches are cruel, but okay, Satum, verse 4. Davak leshon yonek el chiko batsama alalim sha'alu lechem hores ein lahem. Davak is to cleave. I like to, like man and woman to cleave are supposed to cleave to one another. Leshon yonek. So this is lashon, but it's in a construct, so it became leshon. So the tongue of a yonek, of a suckling, of an infant, el chiko, to his, the palate of his mouth, his chayk, the chiko, bat sama, with the tsama, thirst, or alalim, children, sha'alu, they request, they beg or ask for lechem, bread, pores, being spread out. I guess the idea is their arms are spread out. Ein lahem, there is none for them, or they don't have any. Satum. Hey, verse 5. Hey. Ha'ochelim lima'adanim, nashamu bachutzot, he'emunim ra'alei torah, chibeku ashpatot, ha'ochelim. Sorry, I had a call. Ha'ochelim, the ones eating, lima'adanim, like fanciful foods, delights. Nasham. This is from shamam, to be desolate. And it's a nifal. So they are, the inference is now desolate. So those who once ate delicacies, and the inference is poetic again, now are desolate, bachutzot, in the streets. Ha emunim, ra'lei torah. So this is Aman number 2, not Aman meaning to have faith in. Aman number 2 has the idea, it's probably from Omen. It's got the idea of something being placed in order, right? So an Omen, not an omen in English, but an Omen is like is a steward or like a nanny, right? Like it could be male or female, an attendant to children, right? A kind of guardian. And Omenet is a nurse, right? Like a wet nurse or so. Not necessarily a wet nurse, like a nanny, like a nanny. And emunim is a passive. Those who are it's a call passive. Those who are like cared for by a nurse or like nanny, the nannied, if you can make that passive. So ha'emunim, the nannied ones, those who are, or the ones who are looked after, la'alei tolah, with la'alei tolah. This is just an older form from al. The poet is using very old language, like with tolah is a very fine material, satinous, like a scarlet colored clothing. It's from the word for worm, right? So it's the same color as earthworm, right? But that was expensive clothing. Chibeku. This is PL from chabak, chet, beit, kof, or kuf, however you like to call that. It's like to give a hug, right? So they have embraced ashpatot, heaps of trash. Satun. Verse 6. Let me move it up a bit. Vayigdal avon bat ami mechata'at Sodom hahafucha chemoraga velo chaluva yadayim satum. So the apparatus thinks it might be Yeladim. So Vayigdal the Avon, and he has raised up, and Avon has raised up. This is iniquity. This is intentional sin. But La'ami, the daughter of my people. Actually, this is a full construct. So the intentional sin of the daughter of my people has grown up. Mechata'at Sodom, from the sin of Sodom. Hahafucha, who was overturned. Chemo raga, as in an instant. Chemo, or here it's chemo, because the ah sound preceding the bagad kafat letter. This is an old version of kaf. We always say kaf is an inseparable preposition. Well, here it's separatable in this ancient chemo form. Raga. You might hear in modern Hebrew dialect, maybe you've toured in Israel before, you might hear a teacher or a tour guide saying, Rega, 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 like hurry up, let's go, let's go, let's go. Velo chaluva yadayim. And not chalu, this is from chul, chet vav lamed, which is like to move around. Sometimes you can get the idea of dancing from this, or moving around, va, against it, yadayim, hands. And this is difficult to interpret what's happening here. Velo chaluva yadayim. It might mean the idea is that even human hands were not involved in this. I'd be interested in knowing your thoughts on what the deeper meaning here might be. Okay, verse 7. Zion. Zaku nezireha misheleg tsachu mechalav. Ademu eitzim mipninim sapir gizratam. Zaku, this is from the verb zachach. It's another one of those, like we had sachach yesterday or in the previous lesson. Now we have zachach. So that might be part of the poet's intention. Zachach is to be bright, to be pure. And this one here, so the kaf, it doesn't mean it's PL, it's just because the second kaf became part of it. So zaku, they purified, or they made pure, they were pure or bright. Nezireha, her nazirs, consecrated ones. Misheleg, more than snow. Sahu, from the verb sacha, tzarich he, which is to be dazzling. They were more dazzling than chalav, than fat, mechalav. Ademu, this is from Aleph Aleph Dalet Mem, which is to be read. They were red, etzim, a bone. Mi peninim, more than, what's that thing that grows on the bottom of the ocean? Coral, than corals. Sapir, gizratam. Sapir is lapis lazuli, although some think sapphire. It's definitely a cognate, right? Sapara. But the older lexicons tend to say sapphire, and the newer ones say lapis lazuli. Gizratam. This is the word gizra. So their gizratam, which is like form or shape. Verse 8, Chet. Chashach mishechor ta'oram lo nikru bachutzot. Chashach is to be dark. Mi, more than shechor, than black. So darker than black. To'oram. To'oram. It's a little weird. It's probably to'ah, which is like a form. Like we say, like a woman is pretty, has a nice mareh, and to'ah, a nice appearance and form. And since we had a different word for form up above in the previous verse, then that makes some sense. The gizra. Now we have to'ar am of them, their form. So darker than blackness was their form. Lo nikaru. This is nacha in the nifal, to be recognized. They were not recognized bachutzot, in the street, because they're so black. Nobody recognized them. Tzafad. Tzafad. And this is, of course, all the metaphor. Before we're talking about gemstones and such like this, right? So tzafad is to shrivel. Oram, their skin shriveled. Al atzmam, upon their bone. Yavesh, it dried up. Haya cha'etz, it was dry like the tree. Satum. Verse 9. Tet. Tovim hayu chalelei cherev, mechalelei ra'av, shehem yazuvu, medukarim, mitenuvot sadai. Tovim hayu chalelei cherev. So we have a mem of comparison coming up. So instead of good, it's going to be better. Were the slain ones by sword, literally the pierced of sword, may then chalalei ra'av, then slain by, and the reason I'm doing slain is it's the same verb, right? And when you have the same word with Hebrew parallelism, you usually tease out a different meaning than those slain by ra'av, by famine. Shehem, because they, shesh for asher, shehem, for they themselves, or they indeed, yazuvu, from zuv, they flowed, medukarim. So dakar is to pierce. This is a pual passive participle. So for they indeed flowed. What flowed? Medukarim, piercings, like pierced ones having been pierced. Me tenuvot sadai, more than tenuvot. Tenuva is like produce or yield. So more than the produces of sadai. Sadai is related to sadeh. It's like farmable land. What do we have here? Oh yeah, there's interesting, quite a few variances, or at least suggested variances. Okay, satum. And we might not get through it all tonight, actually. They're longer than I thought they were going to be. Each verse. Verse 10. Yedei nashim rachamaniot bishilu yaldeihen hayu levarot lamo beshebe but la'amin. Terrible. Yedei nashim. Women's hands. The hands of women. And now we have an adjective about their hands. What kind of hands were they? The root is racham. Remember racham? Like compassionate or merciful. So rachamaniot, compassionate hands of women. Bishalu. So it's coming before the verb. So with women's compassionate hands, bishalu, they boiled. Yaldeihen, their children. Hayu livarot. They became to eat. They were for eating. Lamo. To them, beshever, but ami, with shever. And it's interesting, it's a breaking or a fracture, although shever can also be a kind of corn, right? But ami, of the daughter of my people. Yeah, it's probably the breaking or the siege of the daughter of my people. How horrible. So hayu livarot, they became to eat for them, like food for them. Goodness. Verse 11. Kila Adonai et chamato shafach charon apo vayatzet eish betzion vatochal yesodoteha. Kila Adonai. Kila in the PL like this, it's an extreme form of to finish. So consume, destroy. Adonai finished chamato, his heat, his anger. Shafach, he poured out charon apo, the anger of his nostril, of his wrath. Apo. So here we have chema, charon, and af, all different words meaning anger. Vayatzet, this is the verb yatzat in the Hophal form. It means to kindle. And he kindled an eichah, a fire, betzion, in Zion, or against Zion. Vatochal, and it consumed, or it ate, yesodoteha, her foundations. So, yeah, just did a quick time check there. It's taking longer than I thought, so we might have to do 2 days for chapter 4 as well. That's all right. I'd rather do that than have you guys not be able to enjoy it. Maybe I'll just read through it for feeling one more time. So let's see, we got through the coughs. That's a good stopping point because that is halfway through the alphabet. So Lamentations chapter 4, verse 1. Eichah yu'am zahav, yishneh haketem hatov, tishtapechana, avnei kodesh, berosh kol chutzot. Bnei Tzion, haikarim, hamesulaim, bapaz. Eichah nechshavu lenivlei cheres, ma'aseh yedei yotzer. Gam tanin, to be read as tanim, chalitzu shad, heiniku gurehen, bat ami, the achzav. And then we do the kere reading here. He reading here. Kai ainim, bamidbar. Davak lashon yonek, el chiko, bat sama. O'alalim sha'alu lechem, pores, ein lahem. האוכלים למעדנים נשמו בחוצות. האמונים רעלי תורה חיבקו אשפתות. ויגדל עוון בת עמי מחטאת סדום. ההפוכה כמורגע ולא חלו בה ידיים. Or some suggest ילדים. I'm going to adjust the size so we can. There we go. זכו נזיריה משלג, צחו מחלב, אדמו עצם מפנינים, ספיר גזרתם. חשך משכו תוארם לא ניכרו בחוצות. צפד אורם על עצמם, יבש היה חעץ. טובים היו חללי חרב מחללי רעב, שהם יזובו מדוכרים מתנובות שדי. ידי נשים רחמניות בישלו ידיהן, היו לברות למו בשבר בת עמי. כילה אדוני את חמתו, שפך חרון אפו, ויצאת אש בציון, ותאכל יסודותיה. All right, you guys, I hope you had a good time with me today. I will see you on our Shabbat triennial Torah portion coming up. Shalom, shalom.